Good evening, everybody. So I just finished the 11 o'clock Mass about 2 Sundays back. As usual, I greeted people at the back, and I was heading back to the sacristy, and a few people were still hanging out here, and this 10 or 11-year-old little girl, she came and asked me, "Father Satish, do you like being a priest?" I said to her, "I love being a priest." And she was like as if she was not convinced. And I've known her, she's known me from the time she was in her mother's womb. So I said, "Do you know why?" And she said, as if, "Go ahead, tell me." So I said, "First of all, I get to celebrate the Eucharist with you." I said, "I love the Mass, and it's everything." And then I said, the best part of my life is also that I spend all day, every day, doing good. That's my job. I said, I visit people when they're in the hospital. I help people when someone has died. I help the poor, and I'm there when people need me. Like today, after the Spanish Mass at 9 o'clock, I had 3 families that I met. And it's just being there for people. I love all of that. And I may have said a few other reasons why I love my priesthood. And I wanted to say to her, I hope you will think of becoming a priest, but I could not, and I did not, lest the Pope call me. But one thing is true, that I'm eternally grateful to God for my vocation to the priesthood in the Catholic Church. If a child came and asked you if you like being who you are and why, what would you say? Today's gospel readings may help us answer the question. So here are my 3 points, and I want to begin with the question that Jesus asked his disciples: who do you say that I am? Now, to fully understand today's gospel, we need to understand Matthew's geography. He says, when Jesus came to the area of Caesarea Philippi. Caesarea Philippi was originally called Panion, after the Greek god Pan. When the Romans conquered the region, Augustus Caesar gave this city to Herod the Great. Later, when Herod died, Herod's son Philip rebuilt the city and changed the name from Panion to Caesarea Philippi after Caesar and his own name, Philip. That's how it got the name. Now, because of its history, Caesarea Philippi was a place of competing allegiances. Greek culture, Roman imperialism, and Jewish tradition contested with each other in this historical town. It is in this place of competing allegiances that Jesus asked Peter the question, "And who do you say that I am?" Peter recognized that something greater than Greek history, Roman imperialism, and Jewish tradition was present that day in Caesarea Philippi. Peter answered Jesus by confessing, "You are the Messiah, the Son of the living God." You see, Jesus was greater than Roman politics, Greek mythology, and Herod's ambition. Peter's clarity, and this I'm going to focus a little bit. Peter's clarity in the midst of competing ideologies and allegiances of the time is the reason Jesus told Peter, "You are Peter, and upon this rock I will build my church." It was Peter's clarity. So the practical implication for us is that amidst the many compelling realities of our times, we are invited to know and understand Jesus with the same clarity that Peter had. This means, and people do this, believe me, people do this. This means that we do not confuse Jesus with our politics, our economics, our cultural and national identities. It's an insult to Jesus. Jesus is the Christ, the Son of the living God. Jesus is above all, beyond all, and greater than all. The clearer we are about Jesus Christ, the more blessed we are. Now, I'm making up this question. This is not in the gospel. The next question is, and who do you say you are? With the clarity of Peter, I want to return to the earlier story of my priesthood. Folks, what if I said to you, though, that even though I cherish my priesthood, I do not consider it my primary calling? My primary calling is to be a disciple of Jesus Christ. My priesthood is how I live my discipleship, or my discipleship is lived through my priesthood. But the primary calling, the call to follow Jesus. Let me explain. Jesus called his disciples to follow him, and in the gospel, there is no account of Jesus ordaining the 12 as priests. There's no account. The only gospel account we have of the 12 having a priestly role is the Last Supper, when Jesus entrusted the new Passover to them and said, "Do this in memory of me." For 3 years before that, the disciples had to learn to follow Jesus. Similarly, they gave up their homes, right, to follow Jesus, their families, their livelihood, and their other allegiances to follow Jesus. So similarly, I was not ordained a priest and then learned how to follow Jesus. I was first called to follow Jesus, and after 11 years of learning what that meant, I was ordained a priest. So as I said, my priesthood is the way in which I live my discipleship. So there is something common to all of us, you and me, starting with the Pope to the littlest child in this church. There's something common. That the thing that is common to all of us is that the primary call is to discipleship. Whether you're married or single, a father or mother, a parent or otherwise, a child or an adult, a priest, a religious, or whatever you might be professionally, our primary calling is to be a disciple of Jesus Christ. If you forget the rest of this homily, take this with you. This means that it is Jesus Christ who defines us. If as a priest, I do not understand what it means to be a disciple, what kind of a priest would I be? Whether you're a doctor, a plumber, an educator, a grocery shelf stocker, engineer, a media influencer, a construction worker, letting Jesus define who you are makes all the difference. Letting Jesus define you makes all the difference. The clearer we are about who Jesus is for us, the clearer we become of who we are. So the practical implication is simply this: the clearer we are about Jesus, the more our life gets defined by his life and teachings, and the more we understand that our primary calling is to be a disciple, the more central Christ becomes to our identity and our dignity. And this is what Peter was doing. Now, next Sunday, we will hear how Jesus had to teach him more. But for today, Peter was defining not just Jesus, but Peter was defining also who he was. And the moment he called Jesus Son of God, he was defining himself as a disciple. So my third point, on this rock I will build my church, Jesus said to Peter. So on the one hand, faith and discipleship are very personal decisions. Really. Every person has to make a choice about being a disciple of Jesus and to have faith in Jesus. On the other hand, faith is practiced in a community of disciples. Matthew called this community ecclesia. It literally means an assembly or a gathering. It comes from two words, ek, meaning out of, and kaleo, meaning the ones who are called out. The ecclesia, then, is the gathering of disciples, those who are called out. And here is something that I love. And Jesus said to Peter, on this rock I will build my church. It's Jesus' church. Christ founded the church, and for this reason it's divine and holy. But the church is made up of disciples, and to that extent it's human and imperfect. The church is this divine human mystery on earth, and Christ wills that our faith in him is lived in my church, in the ecclesia that he founded. As Catholics, we have this unbroken chain of faith and tradition in that very church Christ founded, and with Peter as the rock on which Christ built it. Now, what we should know is by the time Matthew wrote the gospel, he wrote it about 80, 85 AD, Peter had been martyred for about 20 years already. The fact that Peter's role in the church continued far beyond his death tells us that Peter's role as first among the apostles was an accepted article of faith. So today, Pope Leo is the unbroken link to what Jesus Christ instituted, and over the last 2,000 years, the church has been through a lot, but the gates of the netherworld have not prevailed against it. It is by our baptism that we join ourselves to the community of disciples we call ecclesia, or the church. And today, let us recommit ourselves to living out our faith in Jesus Christ through the church that Jesus said is my church. Let's recommit ourselves. And folks, this is a time for us to rebuild our faith. I have noticed something going on, which is a lot of people who have been disconnected from the church over the last year and a half or two have just been connecting back. There are those who are still not there, but I see a lot of people, 20, 30 years have been away from the church and suddenly are finding their faith, and it's wonderful to see that happen. Don't hesitate don't be arrogant Our faith is not meant to be arrogant, but do not hesitate, because people are longing to connect with something deeper. Go, you are a disciple. Be a disciple. Let your faith shine without it condemning people or making them feel bad about who they are. Live your faith, invite people to reconnect, because what Jesus has founded is my church, and Jesus wants us to live our faith in this community, and it's our saving grace. So today, I'm concluding. Today, Matthew invites us to reflect on three things. Clarity about Jesus Christ. Clarity about Jesus Christ. The call to discipleship, and the willingness to live our faith in the church Jesus founded and entrusted to Peter's care. And all these three realities come together in the Eucharist we celebrate in this Eucharist, on this altar. Our discipleship, Jesus Christ, and the church he founded, all these three come together in this altar as we celebrate this Eucharist. So may our celebration be a celebration of the clarity of our faith in Jesus Christ, our personal discipleship, and our call to live our faith and discipleship in and through the Catholic Church. People of God said,